Hey guys, I'm Chris.
Hey everybody, I'm Robert.
And we're the Film Flamers.
And we're bringing you a special episode because we just pepper these in sometimes throughout the year. It's time for a top 10 episode.
Right, and for a long time we've talked about doing our top 10 jump scares, and now that we've talked about, I think, a lot of the things that are going to end up on our list, it's a good time to do that. Of course, our top 10s for best horror real estate and altered state are still kind of coming. We're kind of still workshopping those, but they're crystallizing.
That's right.
Slowly over the years.
I think at this point we really have to whittle down our real estate episode to 10.
Yeah.
So we have quite a bit.
Yes.
Quite a bit. And honestly, I need to put myself in an altered state more often so I can make that list in an altered state too.
Right. But this is the jump scares episode. So what is it, like a pop and a soda and a Coke type of situation? Some people call it Dolby shock.
That's right. So, I mean, what is a jump scare exactly, right?
Right. My favorite jump scares are when it is very organic, right? And not like forced.
I would agree. I feel like a good jump scare is effective when you're not expecting it, first of all, right? But also there needs to be a little tension buildup, right?
Right. So I want to be scared and startled. If it's just startled, I'm annoyed, right? Because at that point, it's just the loud noise coming at me real quick. And that just annoys the shit out of me. And it feels like manipulative and contrived. But if I'm actually scared, like in some of these movies, have to be scary before they can really do a good Dolby shock or jump scare. And we promise all of the ones in our top 10 meet that criteria.
That's right. Everything in our top 10 is something that we have jumped at, got scared at, even as hardened horror fans. So I will say that I'm super susceptible to jump scares no matter what when I'm watching a movie. They make me jump. Sometimes they make me shriek out loud. Even the ones that are really contrived and stupid. But I am affected by horror, like just generally.
Yeah.
So.
I'll jump. And sometimes my husband, Matt, will jump. But my sister, if I happen to watch something with her, she will sometimes shriek, maybe do a couple aerials.
That's right. Tippy head run about.
Yeah.
I know. I feel like she and I are very simpatico when it comes to jump scares.
Well, it's fun watching movies with people like that. So,
I mean,
especially horror movies.
It's good to see a good jump scare in the theater with a group of people. There's nothing like being in a full theater of people watching a horror movie and hearing everyone scream or jump at the same time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Popcorn flying about. Yeah. But just so you know, listeners, how serious we were about making this top 10 list and really thinking about the things that scared us the most or the most iconic, we have a lot of honorable mentions to get into just before we start counting down our top 10.
We do, because we don't want you to think that we didn't take some of these into account, and we'll still miss some. So please tell us in any of our contact points, like what your favorite jump scares are or what your most memorable were.
Those are always the best comments for a top 10 episode.
Oh, hell yeah. So this is going to be a little different. Normally we save our honorable mentions till after we've actually counted down, but I like to end with number 1. And so let's do this a little differently. And what I've done is I've alphabetized all of these so they're not at any given weight, but they're special mentions. So we're just going to go through them real quick.
Okay, let's do it.
Starting with Deep Blue Sea, Sam Jackson bites it.
That's right. A shark jumping out and just snapping Sam Jackson in half.
That's one of those jump scares where it's just like you just like shriek and then laugh, right? Because you just can't believe it.
And shark movies are always fun. The next one is from The Exorcist. So the original Friedkin Exorcist, and that is the attic candle flame.
Right, when it just flares up when she's going through the attic. This is the beginning of the movie, too.
That's right. So good way to start that film. The next is from the film Fallen, which we've covered in the deep dive, and that is the house shift moment.
Right, he's going through that abandoned house, and this was a contrived piece that was from the screening, right? When someone during an early test screening slammed the door and everyone in the theater screamed. So they went back and filmed a new scene to make a jump scare.
Well, and sometimes when it works, it works.
It works.
The next one is from Final Destination, so the original from that franchise, and that is the iconic bus smash moment.
Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of these. So this kind of is a stand-in for those types of run over by a car jump scares.
I like this one specifically because that character is just screaming at the others about how she's not going to die, right? And then the bus like hits her out of fucking nowhere.
Right.
So that's another one where you kind of like laugh. So,
and it's also not a stand-in at the same time because I think we've got 2 or 3 other vehicle jump scares in here.
Because they're always good.
Right. Next up, we've got Invisible Man, right? So she's up in the attic and the paint can, right? And so like, it's coming, he's there, and yet it's still a huge jump scare moment, right? And because the tension is so much. And then also the very beginning when she's trying to get out of that house and you have no idea what's going on, especially on her first watch. And she's trying to be as quiet as possible. And this is like a 10 or 15 minute opener, right? And she kicks the dog bowl, and it's crazy.
It's that one and the Invisible Man that really gets me, because like you're in that moment with her and you're like, bitch, be quiet. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then no, that happens. Made me jump so high. The next one is from It Chapter 1, and it's the projector scene. This is another one where you can see it coming, but you have no idea how in-depth that jump scare is going to be.
Or how big he's going to be. It's like it breaks its own rules with how much he can do at once, And so it's just like you see how dangerous this thing actually can be, and you're just scared the shit out of.
I jumped many, many times in it, Chapter 1, but that one specifically, I was like, all right, something's going to happen with that projector. And then he sort of like leaps out of it, and I was like, oh, fuck. You know? So scary.
Next up is It Follows, and we just covered this, and I think everyone jumps or is startled at least when she has seen whatever it is following her and comes into the house, and she runs into her bedroom and hides, and all the kids are like, what's wrong? And they finally open the door, and the tall man in the white shirt comes from behind, just out of the shadows, out of nowhere, and it's a big jump scare.
And that's a really good jump scare moment, not only because it scares people, but because it kind of sets up some of the rules of that movie, that no one can see what's going on, but it's clear and it's present, right?
And it's dangerous.
It's all those things. The next one is Jaws. So something else that we've covered on a very long deep dive. But of course, there is that moment that everyone knows where Roy Scheider is throwing Chum off the back of a boat, and Jaws like leaps up out of nowhere because he's not expecting it. We're not expecting it. And there it is.
And famously, Robert said that the noise that Bruce, the shark, makes is rawr.
Yeah, rawr.
Right. And there's also a second jump scare in that that was filmed in Spielberg's pool when they're going and looking at the shipwrecked boat below. And then I think there's like a dead body reveal.
There's like a severed head that floats into the hole in the boat. Yeah, of course.
And there's a big jump scare there.
We have Jurassic Park up next, and it's another Samuel Jackson moment.
Right. Although I'm sure he wasn't there to be filmed because it's just a hand.
Nope, that's right. So Laura Dern feels comforted when she feels his hand on her shoulder. But as she backs away from the computer equipment, it's a severed hand. And then right after that comes a friendly raptor.
A friendly raptor. Right. Next up, our next vehicular jump scare, which is the Meet Joe Black. Which is not a horror movie, but even though, it's all about tone, right? Brad Pitt plays Death, or the incarnation, but the person that he's basing himself on is this guy who got run over in traffic 3 times. But when he gets hit, it's like out of nowhere, and it's just like, it's a big jump scare. And then it turns funny because he's hit like 3 times.
Isn't there like a long cut of that on YouTube that you can just watch him get hit over and over again?
Yes. And I did that in the 90s with my sister. I was like, you have to see this. And I was just laughing because it looks so cartoony. It looks so, obviously car accidents aren't funny, right? But the way that this was filmed, the special effect for it, just super floaty and muppety.
Well, things are people are like flipping over cars and whatnot. That's super not believable. So, I mean, at first you're like, oh, that sudden impact of a car thing. And then people are like flipping over vehicles. I'm like, okay, sure. Next up is Mulholland Drive, and this is the opening scene, the Winkey scene, that has some really palpable build-up to a jump scare that doesn't quite pay off.
Not for me, but a lot of people mention it.
The first time I watched Mulholland Drive, I was like, what the hell is going on through the entire movie, but especially this scene because it has nothing to do with the rest of the film whatsoever. Yeah. And the build up to this is just fucking palpable, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. The build up is great. It just doesn't pay off. Next up, we've got Paranormal Activity 2. And this is kind of stand-in for the rest of the paranormal activities because this is the kitchen scene where I think everything kind of just explodes at once and you don't expect that. And it's a big jump scare.
That's right. And there's lots and lots of jump scares throughout that entire franchise.
Which is surprisingly good. And we have yet to do a single one of them.
Yeah, pocket time. We'll put it on there. Next up is a blast from a lot of our childhood pasts, and that is Pee-wee's Big Adventure with Large Marge. So something that probably would have made it really close to our top 10 if these were going to be ranked, at least in my opinion. Because when I was a little kid, Large Marge face change while Pee-wee's riding in her big rig, like, just totally scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. And she's telling this story about pulling body from a twisted, fiery wreck. And all of a sudden her face becomes this like Burton-esque, well, it is Burton, like Muppety thing. And you're like, blah! And it just like frightened the shit out of me when I was a kid. But in hindsight, it's fucking hilarious.
Right. Next up, we've got Signs. Famously, Joaquin Phoenix sees the alien walk on TV and it's a jump scare.
And I like that jump scare because we jump at that moment and then Joaquin Phoenix jumps right after that. And it's a shared experience between viewer and character. And that doesn't happen very often.
He's got his tinfoil hat on.
Yeah, he's like, what? I mean, it's just a really good moment.
Yeah.
Next up is Sinister, and this is, you know, what some people call, science calls the scariest movie ever made or something like that, which I don't know is debatable.
As far as heartbeats or something?
Yeah. But there's one scene in this movie that gets me every single time, and that's when Ethan Hawke is walking up to a seemingly innocent cardboard box and his sleepwalking child like contorts himself out of it.
Right. Next up, we've got The Orphanage, right? And this is another vehicular, really our last vehicular one. And this is kind of two jump scares in one because the lady is hit by a car and then there's like a jaw reveal.
That's right. So this is one of those jump scares that comes out of nowhere, but also is really fucking gross and gnarly, right? So you get to see like this cool gore moment and you're scared. And this movie is just fucking creepy all the way through it anyway. Right. Sitting here talking about some of these things that we haven't deep dove into, like, I'm really forming a docket in my head, honestly.
Well, I'd like to do like Devil's Backbone and The Orphanage and Pan's Labyrinth and things like that, you know?
Everything but Shape of Water.
Basically everything that Guillermo's touched except for Shape of Water and the one with like the beetle thing.
Kronos. Yeah. Oh, God, I haven't thought about that movie in a long time. Okay. And then our last special mention is another movie that we have deep dove into sort of recently, and that's The Ring. So the American version of The Ring, where we get to see like what these victims look like after Samara has gotten to them with the closet face reveal.
Right. This is very beginning too. This is really like opener before we've even really met our, no, we have, because it's a flashback, right? Because the mom's talking about finding her, I think, or the kid's thinking about finding her.
Like during the wake or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and it just like jump cuts to like her face and it's gnarly.
And it's just a split second.
Yeah.
But it's something that everybody remembers from that movie.
Oh yeah.
But those are just the beginning, as now it's time to get into our actual top 10 jump scares.
We've only just begun
to list.
All right. Starting with our number 10, Hereditary.
A movie that we covered this May 24.
Yes, and this is the mom corner jump because the kid is at the end of the movie.
Yep.
And she's like crawling on the ceilings and the walls. You don't know really where she is, but you can see her on the ceiling and he's like backing away, but he hears something behind him and he looks and she just jumps out of the corner behind him, like out of nowhere, like she teleports or something. And it's like, you don't expect anything to be there. Maybe another naked cultist or something, but damn, did I jump in that scene.
And it's really, really effective because we know that like shit has really hit the fan by this point in the movie. I mean, like people are dead, fathers are burned. And we know that what's going on.
Sisters are beheaded.
Sisters are beheaded. And we know what's going on at this point is something demonic, right? And so possessions are happening. And it really is like kind of one of the scariest moments in the movie, at least like one of the most viscerally scary moments in this movie.
Right.
That leads straight to its really cool ending.
Oh yeah. That's in the last, I want to say 5 minutes.
That's right. Moving on to number 9 is another jump scare that happened in a trailer, but this was a movie that I thought I was going to discount until I saw that jump at the end of it. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll watch this. And then I had lower hopes, but it turned out to be a really good horror movie. And that's Smile.
Right. It is in the trailer, and yet it still gets you.
It does. So we're talking about the car window head moment, where at the end of the trailer, if you recall, if you haven't seen the movie, our main character is sitting in the front seat of her car and someone is running out of a house, taps the window, and their head is sort of like off their body, hanging upside down.
Yeah. This is almost like a slightly perfected jump scare that we're going to get to later on as well in this list. But it was a good pivot, and it really, really worked.
It really worked. And again, this movie turned out to be a lot scarier and a lot better than I was expecting. This is just another one of those situations where you're like, are they even going to put that jump scare in the movie from the trailer? And there it is.
Yep.
It worked. The sequel's coming out soon. And this is actually the most recent movie in our top 10. So it made the cut.
Next up, we've got 7. And this gets me every fucking time that I've watched it. No matter how many times I've seen this movie, it's when Sloth awakens. Because they think he's a desiccated, like, dead body.
Right.
And he wakes up and it just scares the shit out of me. It scares the shit out of everyone in that room. Ugh.
It's the biggest jump scare in 7 for sure. A movie that is very, very somber and doesn't seem like it would need something like a jump scare. And it really doesn't. But it's super effective at this moment because the SWAT have busted in there and one of the cops leans down and like whispers like, you got what you deserve, because he's a drug addict, right?
Yeah.
And then he's awake and like breathes into his face.
Right. And it's so effective because the thing looks like an object. It looks like it's something that was placed there by props. Mm-hmm. And then it turns out it's a guy in makeup that's, I guess, emaciated or something. But damn, they did a good job.
Out of everything that's on our list, I feel like this is the one that we would struggle to place. Like, I feel like in certain situations, it could be either higher or lower on a list, right? But it's just so iconic in a movie that doesn't really have a lot of jumps in it. Right. So, and I feel like it's something that everyone remembers from that movie for sure. Next up, number 7 is another thing that I think people remember from a very specific movie, and that movie is Insidious.
Right.
So the first from that franchise, there are lots of creepy moments and jump scares in Insidious, but one I think is the most iconic. And that's when Miss Barbara Hershey is talking about a dream that she had involving her son and her grandson. And at some moment, a red-faced demon sort of like pokes his head around from behind Patrick Wilson. And it's in broad daylight in someone's home. Everything feels kind of safe. But for a split second, everyone jumps. And it is just like the scariest fucking moment.
Oh, yeah. She jumps back. We all jump back. It's crazy.
Again, it's one of those moments where it's a shared jump scare between like the viewer and the character. And it just shows you that like things are happening in this movie that no one expects. And for the rest of the film, you shouldn't be expecting things either.
Exactly. Number 6 is The Descent, something that we desperately need to deep dive at some point.
I'm telling you, this is going to turn into like top 10 movies we should put on the docket episode.
Well, I think from here on out, we've covered everything.
Yep.
So The Descent, this is when they use the night vision, when they lose their torches and everything else, and they have to use their night vision cameras to kind of see. Mm-hmm. And they're panning around, seeing all their friends or whatever below in the pits, and then you see something behind them.
That's right.
That are just so near that you can't even imagine like that they've been there the whole time. And it just scared the shit out of me the first time I saw this in the theater.
Oh my God.
And I jumped back, the entire audience just like people were like spilling their drinks. Like it was crazy.
Shared experience, which is good. I wish I'd seen this in the theater actually, because this movie is really, really scary. And this is the moment in the movie where the characters start to realize that they're fucked. You know, they're like, they don't know which way to go. There's multiple could be exits. And they can't really see what's going on, right? And so like they're freaking out, we're freaking out, and you finally see like what they're up against. So it's a really, really good moment in a very good movie. And I feel like it turns out that the humans are like the worst people in that fucking movie, one in particular.
Yeah, they kind of fuck each other over a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, we have to do that. Next up is number 5, and this is a movie that is near and dear to both Chris and mine's hearts, and something that we've recently covered in a deep dive, and that is The Thing.
Right, and this has at least two very notable jump scares, right? And that is that defibrillator scene. Right, where they're trying to save this guy's life for having a heart attack, but his chest opens up into jaws and bites the guy, the doctor's arms off.
That's right.
Essentially.
It's really fucking gross and cool.
Everybody, I don't care who you are, everybody jumps in that scene.
And the thing is like The Thing is really good with its jump scares because you know it's coming. We've all seen this movie so many times.
You just don't know exactly where and when. Yeah.
Right. And then it's just super effective every time you watch it. You're like, yeah, fuck, I remember that. But it's really, really effective. I love that defibrillator scene.
Right. And then there's that other one where they're testing each other's blood. Mm-hmm. And there's like 2 or 3 in, and there's no reaction, maybe 4. And then you just expect more of that not to work or not to happen. And then it happens. And it just, it's a big jump scare.
And this is the thing about The Thing, right, is that it's a masterclass in tension, which I'm sure that we said during our deep dive, right? But this is the moment, like you know something's gonna happen at this point, but there are so many characters strapped to chairs, you just don't know when, right?
Or exactly what will happen, right? How is it going to react?
Exactly.
When he puts this hot piece of metal into this blood petri dish, you know what I mean?
And
how dangerous could it possibly be? And it's still dangerous.
That's right. I mean, well, it's going to be dangerous because at that moment, whoever is the thing is going to be revealed.
Yep.
So it's just a really, really good jump scare. And I think it's a really good place, like right in the middle of the list. Mm-hmm. So moving up to number 4 is another movie that we love very, very much and covered on a deep dive early in our podcast career. And that is Alien.
Yes, and this has got a lot of different moments. I think there's like a cat moment in a locker as well, but this is the air shaft moment.
That's right.
With, I believe, Dallas.
It is. So Dallas is there, and it's one of the first times that we really get to see like the enormity of this creature, right? Because a lot of it is hidden throughout the movie, or it's very, very dark. We finally get to see what they're up against, and Dallas is just one of those characters that you really don't want to die.
Right, and also it's the tension is wrapped up by the motion trackers that all the other characters have, and they're like, go left, go right, go down. It should be right on you. It should be right on you. And then there's just this quick second reveal, and it's gone, and he's dead.
And it is just a really, really terrifying, really sad moment in a movie that's also like super, super tense. Like those motion trackers alone, because like, again, something's going to happen. But
at this point, it also starts feeling inevitable. Like they're all going to die.
Yep. I mean, they're like being picked off one by one at this point. Like if Dallas is going to die, they're all kind of expendable. So, but just a really, really good jump scare and a classic, really.
Next up, number 3. Is Terrified. Now, we did this about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, this was a Halloween episode.
Like 2020? Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. And so this is not only is this one of the scariest movies I believe has ever been made.
I would agree.
And there's a lot of different kind of jump scares, but it mostly is ratcheted up on just building tension and just creep out, right? Mm-hmm. And so like I remember you saying you had to pause this movie several times.
The first time that I watched Terrified, I was so scared, right? I mean, it's kind of anthology where it's like going into different scenarios in this neighborhood and what's happening. And like by the end of this movie, I am just like horrified. Anytime people ask me, like, what's the scariest movie that I should watch? I'm like, go watch Terrified or Atarados, as it would be called. But yeah, there's a couple moments in this one. And specifically, there's one scene where a character's looking out a window at a house across the street.
Right. So this is one of the investigators, and he is looking out, because this is like a haunting of a neighborhood, right? Mm-hmm. And so he's looking out one of the houses, and he can see a figure that's obviously kind of not human in the window across the street. But when he looks through the other window pane, it's gone. Because in this movie, depending on your perspective, you can see or not see these creatures, which is another whole thing. Right. And so he's going back and forth to see, this creature across the street to see like, oh, I can see it now through this window pane, through the other window pane, I can't. And all of a sudden it's there right in front of him. And it's just like the scream in which I screamed.
For real. And like, that's just a really, really creepy moment because this movie's rules are kind of odd. You really don't know what to expect
because it masterfully does not explain the mythology, which is great.
And it's something that director does really, really well, But the other moment in Terrified where I think people jump the most is another like car window scene, very similar to Smile, but I think this one's a little bit more effective.
This one, yeah, I don't know. Smiles like ups the ante by trying to like break the neck and like have the hand like the you don't expect the hand like you are this is the jump scare, she's gonna hit the window, right? But no, it's the head
that scares you,
that breaks off in Smile, right? This one, she's out of focus and you can tell something's wrong with her body, right, and she's horribly wounded and also like something else is going on like demonic with that thing, and then there's some sort of jump cut and she hits the window. And still you get fucking scared and the guy panics and drives off or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of the prototype for that Smile jump scare. And I think still just as effective, if not better. Yeah. But the real call out, I think, is that window pane one.
Because it's so slow, and it's just like almost delicious. And it's like intent to scare you, And this director, Damien Runga, like he's no slouch to jump scares in movies where he doesn't explain what's going on. Another one would be like When Evil Lurks, right? That infamous dog scene. And I feel like
we should have put that on.
We should have, and I'm glad that we didn't, though, is because I feel like not enough people have seen that movie yet. So guys, stop sleeping on When Evil Lurks and go watch it already.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that jump scare at some point.
Yeah. Honorable mention.
That's right.
When Evil Lurks.
Trust me, the scream in which I scrimped at that moment.
You shrieked.
That's right, because you had seen it before. I was watching it and I just screamed out loud and had to get up. I was like, pause it now. I have to walk for a minute. So good. But we're nearing number 1. But first we have to talk about number 2. So in the Film Flamer's opinion, the second most effective and scary jump scare is from a little Netflix series called The Haunting of Hill House.
Right. And some people are calling this the most effective jump scare of all time. And another honorable mention actually would be another Mike Flanagan, which was his Midnight Club that came out on Netflix recently. The first episode, I think, has like the Guinness Book World of Records for jump scares.
For number of jump scares.
And it's kind of tongue in cheek, you know, but it's enough to make an honorable mention there. But this is Mike Flanagan's first big Netflix series and kind of put him on the map for Dr. Sleep and different things, right? And before that, he'd done Oculus and a couple of other things, obviously. But this jump scare is when it's just two sisters in the car talking about the plot, you know, and they're on their way to the haunted house. So you think this is one of the many, many monologue and dialogue scenes in this movie about the family drama. And then all of a sudden the dead sister just like puts her head in between them while they're driving and screams. And I've seen so many reaction videos on this on YouTube. Just everyone just like jumps out of their skin.
It's such a good moment because you're right. Just like any other Flanagan series, like it is sort of like wrought with dialogue and monologues, and they seem to be kind of monotonous, and you sort of get lulled into this sense of just like, okay, exposition kind of thing. And here we think we just have two women passing the Bechdel test, but no, like something pops out, and it's a really, really effective and frightening moment. Like, in a series that's filled with like creepy things happening in the background, this is one of the few moments in Hill House where it like puts it right in your face. And I remember my heart just like racing.
Yeah.
And it's toward the end of the series. It's like next to last episode. And you're like, all right, things are wrapping up. But no, he's got this one moment in there to really like fuck you up, you know?
Right. And it's always fun when the characters are reacting the same way you are, because they swerve off the road and one of them goes out and it's like throws up outside. Like it affects them so much. And they said, this actresses actually said, because the whoever played the dead girl or whatever was told to kind of do it randomly, I think. Right. And so as part of that thing, she did it super early. Well, and it scared the shit out of them in real life. And so you're getting their honest reactions.
Some Friedkin level directing right there, just without a gun. So, I mean, good.
To his own wife, because of course, you know, she's in that scene.
She's a good sport. Yeah. I mean, like, I wonder in the Flanagan household, how often they take turns scaring each other. I just want to be a house guest, maybe.
Right.
But finally, there is our number one reveal. And honestly, if y'all haven't guessed what we're going to be talking about at this point, then maybe you just haven't listened to the Film Flamers enough.
Maybe. Or maybe not enough people have seen Exorcist 3.
Oh my God. The granddaddy of all jump scares.
Right. And so a lot of people gave up on the franchise after the second one, which if you haven't listened to our deep dive on The Heretic, Exorcist 2, The Heretic, do so right now because that's one of our funniest.
Yeah. Go check it out.
Anyway, Exorcist 3 is not as good as the first. It's still a good, solid horror movie, but it's almost more of like a supernatural detective movie, you know?
Right.
But there is certainly some horror in this, and this is one of the most methodical, longest set up jump scares that you know is coming, but still scares the shit out of you, and almost one of the, maybe not almost, but really is probably the most respected jump scare in film history.
I think for lots and lots of reasons. I mean, just at the base of it, it's a really effective jump scare that makes you scared, right? But like you said, the buildup is so good in this because you know something is coming. You just don't know what, because this movie's been a lot of things so far.
It's also strange because it doesn't have really anything to do with any of our main characters. Nope. None of them are on screen. It's a long shot. We don't know the names or the characters of anyone that's has anything to do with the scene. But it's just almost like we're surveilling this hospital wing where all these murders are kind of happening, you know, and you're seeing everything kind of play out. and you're just watching kind of the mundane reality of these nurses checking on patients or hearing something a little weird, security guards like going to take a bathroom break or something. And it's a really long scene.
It is.
And you think that something's going to happen and it doesn't, and then something does. And it is frightening.
That's right. We are talking for sure about the nun just chasing after a nurse out of a dark room with a pair of like hedge clippers, like going straight for the head. Right.
Well, they were for like, they're not hedge clippers. They're actually meant for taking off people's heads as far as like,
like a medical device?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. I didn't know that. Yeah. I just thought it was something as mundane as something you'd find in the fucking garage. No. But that's even more frightening.
No, because it's spring loaded. So you just wide it and then you let the machine kind of do itself when you let it go.
Oh, so it takes off a head in one fell swoop.
Takes off a head. Yeah, it's meant to decapitate. It's literally designed to do that in like some sort of...
Oh, like an autopsy. But like the other reason I think this is so effective is because it's just so well shot, right? And so like William Peter Blatty directed this movie. He had not directed anything before, but he has crafted like this really long, like one-er shot where, like Chris said, it seems very, very mundane, but something's going to happen and the payoff is just amazing.
Right. If you're into it, I wouldn't watch the clip by itself.
No,
you really need to watch the movie. Some of these you can watch the clips of or reaction videos and you'll see, but like for this one, I would definitely say watch the movie so you're in it. Otherwise, if you're expecting it and you only watch this kind of in isolation, it's not going to be as effective. And don't do that to yourself.
Yeah, don't do that for a lot of some of these. Like you need to watch the entire movie, but this one specifically because The Exorcist 3 is a mood. It's definitely a vibe all the way through it, and it has some of these really creepy moments like peppered in. But this is one of the few moments where you're just like leap out of your seat kind of jump, and if you were to scour the internet to find lists of jump scares and things like that, I would assume that this would be number one on many, if not in like the top 5.
Right.
And this is a movie from the early 90s. So something else that's like stood the test of time, right up there with like Alien and The Thing.
Oh, for sure.
Well, I think that just about wraps up our top 10 horror jump scares or Dolby shocks, however you like to call them. But like Chris said earlier in the episode, we would like to know what some of your favorites are. Did we cover them? Did we miss it? Find us on social media at The Film Flamers on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the things.
You can email us at tiredqueens@filmflamers.com or call our hotline at 972-666-7733.
Oh, come see my closet face.
Your closet face? Oh, defibrillate my chest cavity. Anyway. Deke. Deke.
That wraps up also our content on the main feed, but we have a Patreon episode coming out for everybody who's joined the family over there. They voted in a poll of A24 movies, so head over to patreon.com/thefilmflamers, join the family, and see what movie everyone chose, and vote in future polls.
Right, or you can change the future if you go right now and submit your vote.
That's right. There's a whole list. Every single movie on there is good.
Yeah.
Also, we are inching ever closer to 100 ratings and reviews over on Apple Podcasts or iTunes. Head over there, give us a 5-star review, tell us why you like us, and we'll read that on Shooting the Flames, and then eventually find ourselves on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's right.
Well, Chris.
Well, Robert.
My heart's racing right now just talking about these jump scares. I need to rest.
Me too.
Or be defibrillated.
And have some sweet dreams.
I really want to watch that Large Marge thing again now.
And her cunting daughter.
If only Large Marge had said that.